All right, man. So we got some absolutely massive news coming out of the state of Georgia. There appears to be a clear trend that's emerging in which Kamala Harris is shifting the complete tide in her favor to the point where not only is she surging, but she's clearly starting to take the lead. There might actually be a DNC boost that's manifesting itself. We know that Kamala Harris has opened up a second path to victory. With Biden in 2024, there's only one way. It was the Rust Belt. The Sun Belt did not like him. A bunch of double haters, youth voters, women voters, etc. that did not like him. They're now surging for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has women surging all over the country. And so what we have here is there's this really high chance of being able to win this Sun Belt. All you need, NV, AZ, GA, and NC, and you can win with 0 Rust Belt states. Or you could win with some wombo combo of the two, right? You don't have to go one or the other, right? We're not, racist or anything. You can mix and match, right? We're not, separationist or anything. But we have this huge Georgia poll. So it says new general election poll, Georgia. Harris 50%, Trump 49%, Harris +1. So this is pretty big. A lot of the polls actually didn't have Harris winning Georgia yet. This one already has Harris at +1. The previous poll, notably, Trump was +2. So we know that if she's +1 and Trump was +2 prior, that's a swing of 3 points. That's right, 3 points, right? 1, 2, 3, right? It's a huge, huge shift. This is Emerson. They're a B-rated pollster. So they aren't one of those C-rated pollsters that I call like a shit-tier pollster. It has 800 likely voters, dated 8/28. Absolutely massive poll, and it's not the only one that we have coming out here. So we're able to take a look at the aggregate numbers here in 538's aggregator for polls. And we can see here she has officially taken the largest lead that she has calculated yet in the aggregate. She is now leading in the aggregate by 0.7 points. This is the largest. This is breaking. This is official, right, for the first time. We can see she was down about 1.4 here, around 1 point. Kind of stuck, now close to 0.5 even. She took the lead for 1 day in the aggregator by 0.2, and then she never got the lead back since. It went to 1+ for Trump and is around there. And then now officially she takes the lead on the 28th, which is yesterday. Or for you, I guess it would be the day before yesterday. And then today on the 29th, she is now up 0.7 points. It's the largest number in the aggregator so far. We can see a clear shift. And when we take a look at these polls, we can also do the same here. So we can see this Emerson College poll has Harris up +1. What's also super notable about this poll, other than just the margin, is actually that Harris is polling at 50% and is clearing to almost 100%. So 50 plus 49 is 99. A lot of these polls would be like 44, 47. So there's still a lot of people out there who are saying that they don't have an opinion. That's not the case with this poll. So a really, really big deal here that Harris is polling at 50%. Really, really powerful, really, really good numbers. But we have more good polling data. So Morning Consult now in the head-to-head poll for likely voters is +3% for Kamala Harris. Morning Consult is a C-rated pollster, so I'd put less stock into them. But nonetheless, she's +3. And what we can do that's really important is we can do one-to-one comparisons, and that's the really cool part about these pollsters here. We're going to look at some of these comparisons to see where they were looking like prior to this, right? So this poll +3 for Kamala Harris. In this poll with a lot of these people, with Stein and Oliver in it. Another interesting thing is now that RFK is out, does that end up beefing up Oliver? Is there going to be a lot of RFK to Oliver pipeline? If so, that would be really cool because presumably it would blunt some of the force where, the RFK people go towards, Trump. That'll be something to look out for. Another interesting thing here, we can see the registered voter poll is actually worse for her than the likely voter poll, right? The likely voter head-to-head, +3. In the RV head-to-head, +2. We have seen some polling data to indicate that in some of the likely voter polls, she's actually doing better. Not in all of them, but some of them. So that's another thing you can watch out for. Another absolutely huge Fox News poll. This isn't actually, the Beacon Research pollster is actually A-rated, so they're really high rated. They had Harris +2 in both the head-to-head, and now we can see multiple polls with 50%, right? 3 of them are registering Kamala Harris at 50, which is indicating she's a pretty strong candidate. She doesn't have leads that are like 47 to 44. They're legit full throttle, right? Full-throated leads. So very massive margins, and we even have these Spry Strategies polls. So in the poll with everyone in it, with Kennedy as well and Stein, Trump is +1. And then in the previous Spry one, it was even between them two in a head-to-head, so which is absolutely massive. This is huge. This is a Republican-sponsored poll, so it's a Republican pollster that's sponsoring it. I don't know if Spry is also like a right-wing pollster like RMG. but it's a right-wing sponsored poll, and they have Trump +1, and it's even. And this is a long time ago now. This is 14 through 20. That's like 10 years ago at this point. The end date is 20. We're now on the 29th, right? The Emerson College polls between 25 and 28. The MC poll between 23 and 26. So likely we're kind of finally seeing that DNC boost happening, but we could see a clear change of the guard, right? So between July and August, you see all these polls where it's a bunch of Trump pluses, right? It's a sea of Trump pluses. And then now the SPRY strategies tie, and then you have the +1, and then you have these +2s and 3s and everything. And so Kamala Harris is officially taking the lead. And so we can also do a sort of one-to-one comparison here as well. So we can do is we can search here. We'll just look for Emerson, right? So we look for Emerson here. So the current Emerson poll that we have has Harris +1. If we go back to the previous Emerson poll, we have July 22nd to 23rd. They dropped 2 polls, Emerson College. Trump is +3 in the poll with everyone in it, with Stein, West, Oliver, Kennedy. And he's actually up 3 points. In the head-to-head, he's actually up 2. Now she's ahead by 1, which is a 3-point surge in 1 month, which is absolutely huge. So that's a one-to-one comparison we can make. And then they have some of the Biden polls as well. And then if we want to check the morning console polls, we can do that as well. So these are the new morning console polls that came out. It's between +1 and +3. Let's go ahead and look for the last one. So a month ago in morning console's poll, in the registered voter poll, they had them even in the head-to-head, and they had it with everyone in it. They had another even poll. So they had Oliver and Kennedy both at 4. And so they had an even poll. So we have more surging going on here too. So up by 2 and up by 1. So we have these big surges of like 1 to 2 points basically happening as well in the month. And 1 to 2 points is massive. That's going to determine the state. Another important thing too is Georgia polling is not like polling in the Rust Belt. So we can also look back at the 2020 polls to see how they compare. We can see that Emerson College here, 49-49, right? Literally on the dot, guys. It's literally on the dot. These are the results, 49.5 to 49.3, almost exactly on the money for 2020. So when Emerson comes out and says that Harris has a 1-point lead, that's actually really serious. Morning console also, this one has 49-46, Biden +2. That's actually pretty close. I know it sounds like a lot. It was a miss by 1.8, mostly just from Trump, but that's actually pretty close. That's actually much less than even the lowest end on the Rust Belt. In the Rust Belt, you need to be up like 3 to 5 points at least to be able to win. Wisconsin, in fact, is off by about 7.7 points. So it's super important to be able to understand that and how this is not the same. Joe Biden is up by 1.2 on election day. He ends up winning by 0.2. It's only a 1-point error. And so when I'm doing my forecasting, I think Georgia right now is lean blue, and I think it's close to being likely blue. And so in the forecast, I'm taking into account current polls, historical trends, and then also just fundamentals. So we know that Atlanta has still been growing. Those areas, I think there's a lot of black people moving into those areas. We know that black people vote heavily, heavily Democratic, typically 90-10, if not better. So with the fundamentals, we got the new voter registration of a lot of like young black women, etc., like tripling the registration. The polls are often going to miss those people. I think she can reach 51% in Georgia potentially, depending upon the turnout numbers. There's a lot of energy behind the Kamala Harris campaign. So I personally feel like I'm getting close to having Georgia forecasted at actually likely blue. But for now, it's just lean blue. But with the historical trends analysis, Hillary Clinton here losing by just shy of 6 points de jure, but I'd say de facto, it's more of like an over 6-point loss. And the reason why is because Gary Johnson is here with 3.1%. And what we can see with Gary Johnson is obviously Donald Trump is going to net more from Gary Johnson than Hillary Clinton. So I'd say a de facto 6 to 7 point loss, 7 or more point loss. And then you have a victory of 0.2. So it's about like a 6-7 point swing. And what you can see here is this number of voters adds up to somewhere around 3 million basically. And we can see that this adds up to about 4, right? So, or about 5, right? So, sorry, this wouldn't add up to 3 million. My apologies. Add up to about 4. This adds up to about 5. So there's about 1 million more people. So they did a bus tour through South Georgia. I hope they didn't go through like these rural areas because in Warnock's election, these actually went red or not bluer. Maybe they're going through these areas. But the areas they want to target are the smaller metro areas, Savannah, the areas with Savannah in them, Augusta, Columbus, Macon, etc., Athens. Those areas are really, really powerful. And then Metro Atlanta also, you want to make sure that you turn people out. because these places actually even went bluer with Warnock's election. And then there's a lot of migration still going on towards the state, a lot of black people moving to the state. So with the historical analysis of the trends moving forward, with how the demographic changes are going with a lot of black people moving in and them voting Democrat, a lot of the energy kind of going crazy, I would be really hard pressed to think that Georgia ends up going red this election cycle, just given everything that's going on. As of right now, all of the independent candidates have been off the third-party candidates, but Raffensperger is going to make the final call on that, so we're going to have to see how that goes. But nonetheless, I think it's a sort of new horizon for the state of Georgia. You can literally just see it here. Just look. I mean, this is like a crazy change if I've ever seen one. I mean, just take a look at this. You have like a sea of red and then a sea of blue, right? There's a clear change going on, a change of the guard in Georgia, and I think that Georgia is going to be super, super powerful in this election, obviously because of 16, electoral votes. But I think Georgia has made a shift clearly where now it's clearly in the lead for Kamala Harris. There's multiple polls now, 3 different pollsters varying. This is A rated, this is C rated, this is B rated. They're all coming out. Even the Spry Strategies poll is like fudge. They're just even, +1. And then these pollsters were really close. Emerson was almost perfect in his last poll for Georgia. Morning Consult was close. It was off by about 2 points, but that's actually really on the low end of any of these errors. So Georgia, huge, huge change. And I would say officially right now, Kamala Harris is in the lead because she has multiple polls in favor of her, plus the historical trends, plus the demographic changes, and plus kind of the vibes and those kinds of things as well. So huge, huge news for Kamala Harris in Georgia.